My name is Rowan Lee, 31 years old. The text arrived like a joke that forgot to be funny. I quit. You'll pay my share of rent. No hello, no context, just a single sentence from my brother landing on my screen at 4:38 p.m. Like a bill slid under a door. I stared at it, waiting for a second message that would punchline the first. Kidding, chill. But nothing came. The apartment was too quiet, the kind of quiet that suggests absence rather than peace. I stood, walked down the hallway, and pushed his door open. The room answered the text better than he had. Bare walls. Closet yawning with its metal teeth exposed. No mattress, no desk, not even a hanger left behind. He hadn't just left. He'd peeled himself out of the lease like old tape, quietly, efficiently, while I was at work. Rent was over $2,400. 6 months left. He still owed utilities from 2 weeks ago. I typed before my anger could grow teeth. Dream on. 5 minutes later, Dad. All caps. No punctuation. No greeting. A verdict, not a message. You aren't family until you fund his $100,000 loan. Something in my head went silent the way snow can mute an entire city. A $100,000 loan. Not mine. Not co-signed by me. The app my brother had murmured about for months, some nonsense about digitizing closets and matching socks, had apparently found a lender foolish or desperate enough to write a check. And our father had found a new definition of family, cash collateral with a heartbeat. I didn't reply. I didn't defend myself. I didn't ask why my blood relation was now means-tested by a 6-figure bailout. I had played that game before. Explain better, forgive faster, pay now. I put my phone face down, opened my laptop, and lit the room with a blue glow that felt like armor. The joint credit card Dad talked me into last year, frozen. The backup debit card Mom borrowed in emergencies, locked. My brother's name on the electric account, removed. Auto pays, linked accounts, shared subscriptions, severed one by one, like cutting fishing line from a propeller. I logged into the storage unit portal, the one underwriting our family nostalgia. The old furniture, holiday junk. Boxes nobody wanted but me. My name was on that lease. I changed the access code and the security question. I could have walked away entirely. Instead, I wanted them to feel the quiet first. In the living room, I boxed what was mine. Kitchen knives I actually bought, electronics I actually used, documents nobody else had bothered to file. Everything that was his, I labeled with masking tape, his name, the date, and stacked it by the door like a lineup. There was no rage in the work, only a focus I recognized from nights spent fixing other people's crises. Except this time, the crisis was mine, and the fix was boundaries. At 9, I turned off the lights and didn't check my phone. I already knew what dawn would look like. Sunrise came dressed as prophecy, 58 missed calls, 10 voicemails, a family group chat. I wasn't in lit up somewhere else like a house fire. I brewed coffee and watched the screen hum until it exhausted itself. Then I made the only call that mattered. Uncle Rob answered on the second ring. His voice has always sounded like a hand on your shoulder. I told him everything. The rent, the loan, the freeze. He went quiet in the way people do when they decide whether to protect you with a lie. Do you want to know what they say when you're not around? He asked finally. I braced. Yes. He didn't sugarcoat it, and I loved him more for that. At my cousin's wedding 2 months ago, he'd overheard my mother laughing to Aunt Carla. Grace still thinks she's better than everyone because she pays her own bills. And then, if she ever stops helping, she'll learn real fast who her family really is. I swallowed. He kept going. My father had told him more than once that I owed the family because they put up with me during my bratty teenage years, that therapy at 16 was some debt I should now repay with adult income. After my first big promotion last year, a second group chat spun up, one I wasn't in, where they spitballed how they could lean on Rowan more. Rob had seen it once when Mom left her phone at a barbecue. He'd said nothing then because he wasn't sure what I knew. I knew enough now. They don't think you'll ever cut them off, he finished gently. They think you need them too much. A certain puzzle clicked into place. That satisfying click that makes the picture obvious and unforgivable. Every vague insult disguised as advice. Every reminder of rides to soccer practice and birthday cakes like itemized invoices. It wasn't that they didn't want me to grow up, they just wanted me to become useful. Thank you, I said. It sounded too small, but it was all I had that didn't shake. When we hung up, I drafted a short email to our landlord. My brother had abandoned the lease. I'd pay the next 2 months alone if we could terminate early. I offered photos of the emptied room as proof. He replied within the hour, clean and vacate by month's end, and we were square. I booked a U-Haul, not to move yet, but to store. Then I wrote one more message, this one to the storage unit email, alias both parents actually check. Detailed photos of every item, labeled and time-stamped. Subject line crisp as a closing door. You have 10 days to transfer this lease. After that, I'm not responsible. The calls didn't stop, they mutated. My brother's voicemails, pacing between fake confusion and operatic rage. How I was ruining his life. How I didn't understand how business works. Dad tried a blocked number. I picked up by accident, thinking it was work. He sounded contrite, his voice selecting words like together, forgiveness, proud. I let him speak until he ran out of verbs. Who else is in the family group chat? I asked. Silence, long and brittle. That's not important. That was the only answer I needed. I hung up. An hour later, a delivery service texted. A gift basket, overpriced cheeses, candles, teas I don't drink, was on its way. The receipt tucked under the plastic wrap would have charged the card I froze 2 days ago. Declined. Politeness has a way of tripping when it's running a con. By afternoon, the chorus assembled. An aunt who hadn't texted in months called me, ungrateful after everything your parents did. A cousin asked if I was mad about something dumb and could I just let it go. They were closing ranks, bidding the story, painting me as difficult and dramatic. I typed nothing. Silence is an answer with sharper teeth than explanation. My mother pinged. Why isn't Netflix working? My brother emailed. What's the Wi-Fi password? Even the family dog's vet reminder bounced. Turns out I'd been paying for that too. The more they reached, the quieter I got. Then my brother sent a Venmo request for $1,000 with the caption, your half of the family vacation. Maui next month, the trip they told me I was too busy for back in June. They had already counted my generosity in their budget. I didn't accept or decline. I commented, ask the group chat. 2 hours later, Uncle Rob called again. I don't know what you did, he said, half laughing, half exhausted, but your mom's pacing like she's prepping for war. They were going to Maui until your dad realized the hotel was booked under your corporate discount. Non-refundable. I said nothing. I didn't have to. People who treat you like a resource don't notice you until you remove yourself from the supply chain. That night I packed quietly. The good pans, the important papers, the pieces of myself I'd been careless with because I thought family meant never locking your drawers. The apartment exhaled as boxes piled up, as if it had been waiting for me to choose it over them. On my desk, the lease termination email glowed beside the storage ultimatum. 2 small moves, both polite, both final. Somewhere in the distance, I could feel my family scrambling to rewrite who I was now that I refused to be their scaffolding. They would call it betrayal. They would call it punishment. They would call it everything but its name. I called it the start. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand, its vibration like an insect trapped under glass. I didn't move. The screen lit up with numbers I recognized, numbers I didn't, and numbers I knew belonged to burners my brother had used before, when he'd lost access to his main account. I let them pile up like junk mail. By 9, I was already boxing the kitchen. Each pan, each mug wrapped in newspaper, stacked into neat rows. The clink of ceramic was steadier than the sound of my phone. His things I labeled again, carefully, tape stretched across cardboard with his name scrawled in black marker. The pile by the door was growing. Around noon, my landlord emailed back. Our lease would be terminated if the apartment was clean by the end of the month. Proof of abandonment wasn't even necessary. He'd seen this pattern before. I stared at the line on the screen, end of the month, and exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. By afternoon, I made my next move, the storage unit. The air inside was stale, faintly metallic. Boxes stacked high, each one filled with fragments of lives no one wanted but everyone refused to let go of. My parents' holiday decorations, furniture from 3 moves ago, old clothes still smelling faintly of cedar. I didn't throw anything out. I didn't touch a thing. I just photographed every item, time-stamped each one, and emailed the pictures under the subject line. You have 10 days to transfer this lease. After that, I'm not responsible. I hit send. For the first time, I felt something like calm. The calls shifted tone by evening. My brother left voicemails dripping with rage and disbelief. You don't understand how business works, he snapped in one, his voice cracking. You're ruining my life. You're ruining our life. I didn't answer. At 10:17 p.m., a blocked number slipped through. I picked up, thinking it might be work. Rowan. My father's voice, lower than usual, careful, not yelling this time. I overreacted. I was stressed. The loan, it's complicated. But you know how families are. We're in this together. I'm proud of you, always have been. I let him talk. He used words like we, forgiveness, family. His tone softened, polished into something almost tender. When he paused for breath, I asked one question. Who else is in the family group chat? The silence that followed was thick. Then he said, clipped and dismissive, that's not important. That was my answer. I hung up. The next morning, a package sat at my door, a gift basket, shrink-wrapped in cellophane, brimming with gourmet cheese, teas I don't drink, candles I don't burn. The receipt tucked under the plastic was charged to the very card I had frozen 2 days earlier. Declined. They hadn't learned anything. They had only learned to try new doors once the old ones locked. By midday, my inbox filled with relatives I hadn't heard from in months. My aunt. You're ungrateful after everything your parents did for you. A cousin. Are you mad about something dumb? Can't you just let it go? They were closing ranks, rehearsing their script, painting me as difficult, dramatic. I said nothing. That silence drove them mad. By evening, my mom sent a text. Why isn't Netflix working? My brother emailed. What's the Wi-Fi password? Even the vet's office called, confused why the family dog's checkup had bounced. I realized with a bitter laugh. I'd been paying for that too. The more they reached for me, the more they realized the ground was gone beneath their feet. And then came the request that almost made me laugh. A Venmo notification popped up, my brother requesting $1,000 with the caption, your half of the family vacation. Maui. The trip they'd told me I was too busy for back in June. The trip already booked, already budgeted, already assuming my generosity would fill their gaps. I didn't accept. I didn't decline. I typed 4 words. Ask the group chat. 2 hours later, my phone rang again. Uncle Rob. His voice was low, amused, tired. I don't know what you did, he said. But your mom's pacing like she's preparing for war. They were going to Maui until your dad realized the hotel was booked under your corporate discount. Non-refundable. I didn't laugh, but I smiled. They had built their comfort on me so thoroughly they forgot what life without me even looked like. That night, I packed more boxes. My good pans, my important papers, the clothes I actually wore. Each piece felt lighter once it was mine again. The apartment hummed with silence, but this time it wasn't absence, it was space. I poured myself a glass of water, sat on the couch, and let the quiet settle around me. For the first time, I realized they weren't just angry. They were scared. And fear, I thought, was a more honest reaction than any apology they had ever given me. It was 10:07 on a Wednesday night when my phone lit up with an unfamiliar number. Normally, I let those calls ring out, but something in my gut told me to pick up. Rowan, it's Lena. Her voice jolted me back a few years. My old boss, the woman who had taught me how to fight for promotions and never apologize for competence. We hadn't spoken in months. I ran into your dad at a charity event, she said. I stopped folding laundry. He introduced himself, but he didn't mention you right away. Then he started talking. And Rowan, it didn't sit right. He said you might be stepping away from work soon. Something personal going on. The words fell heavy, measured. My father hadn't just been cutting me out of family finances. He was testing my reputation outside the house, planting seeds of doubt in people who mattered. Sounded smug, Lena added. Calculated. I figured you should know. I thanked her, voice tight, and hung up. Then I sat in the dim light, staring at the laundry half folded on the couch. Dad's reach wasn't limited to guilt-laced texts or calls. He was willing to poison the ground I worked years to grow. And that's when I remembered. The old laptop, the one I used back when I still lived at home, before I moved downtown. Dad never understood cloud storage. He had asked me to set up a folder, to scan contracts, upload tax forms, organize his files. He'd given me passwords, waved away my questions. He never revoked my access, I pulled the laptop from the closet, dust thick on the lid. It powered on with a groan, but the sync was instant. Within 30 seconds, the folder bloomed across the screen. Taxes, insurance, loan. I clicked. Dozens of PDFs. I scrolled until one stopped me cold. Loan agreement, $100,000. Signed by my brother. Co-signed by my father. Collateral, their house. One of the cars. My name wasn't there, but my phone buzzed with Dad's earlier ultimatum. You aren't family until you fund his $100,000 loan, and suddenly the silence around my name wasn't relief. It was calculation. They had never needed me to sign. They had only needed me to pay. Another file, Bank 2025. I opened it. A letter dated 3 weeks ago. Formal warning, missed payments. One more default and foreclosure proceedings would begin. My chest tightened. There was the truth. It wasn't about loyalty or family bonds. It was about their house slipping through their fingers, and me as the safety net they never asked for because they assumed it was theirs by birthright. Then, deeper in the subfolder, a draft email, addressed to a private investor, written, or maybe dictated, by my brother. We're expecting another round of funding from a family source. Family source, that was me, promised without permission. I took screenshots of everything. The loan, the foreclosure warning, the investor draft. I didn't know if I'd ever use them, but having proof steadied the shaking in my hands. Then I composed a new email. Subject line, Selena. Body blank. No greeting. No explanation. Just one word. I sent it to Dad. 2 hours later, his reply arrived. 8 paragraphs. Paragraph 1, apology. Paragraph 2, parents make mistakes. Paragraph 3, a story about teaching me to ride a bike. Paragraph 4, you've always been too independent. Paragraph 5, I only talked to Lena because I was proud. Paragraph 6 through 8, guilt, memory, obligation. Not a single word about the loan. He knew I'd found it. He just didn't know what I would do next. And that was the point. For once, the fear was his. I didn't reply. Instead, I let the cursor blink on the empty screen, steady as a metronome. I closed the laptop, slid it under the couch, and sat in the silence of my apartment. The weight was different now. Not the heaviness of being cornered, but the gravity of holding leverage. The next morning, Uncle Rob called. His voice carried a smile. You won't believe what just happened. Apparently, at dinner the night before, my brother had slipped, mentioned I might be coming back around. My mom nodded, confident, and even raised a glass to the healing of the family. And then Rob dropped his grenade. I wouldn't count on it, he told them. Then, calmly, he laid it all out, how I'd seen the loan documents, the foreclosure warning, Lena's warning about Dad's stunt, the investor draft. The table had gone quiet, he said, forks frozen halfway to mouths. And the best part? Rob chuckled softly. I told them you never said what you plan to do with it. That's what's driving them crazy now. Not what you've done, but what you might do. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, a slow smile tugging at my mouth. For years, they had relied on my predictability, my reliability to pay, to forgive, to carry. Now, their fear was blooming in the space where my silence lived. And silence, I realized, was more powerful than revenge. Uncle Rob's words lingered in my head for days. It's not what you've done, it's what you might do. That weekend, the silence from my family shifted. It wasn't the petulant kind, not the loud absence they usually weaponize to make me crawl back. This was different, hushed, calculating. They weren't calling because they were regrouping. I could almost feel them in their kitchen, whispering, drawing up a new plan. By Tuesday, Mom broke the quiet. An email landed in my inbox with the subject line, a chance to talk. 6 paragraphs of polished sincerity, each word carefully placed like a flower arrangement meant to hide the stench beneath. She wrote about gaps in communication, about family unity, about time to heal. She asked me to come to dinner, just one night, one meal, as if bread on a table could undo years of manipulation. At the bottom was an attachment, a screenshot of a text she had drafted but hadn't sent to the family chat. It read, I think we owe Grace an apology. She wanted me to see it, not because she meant it, but because she wanted credit for even thinking about saying it. An unsent text as an olive branch. I stared at it for 10 full minutes, the cursor blinking on my screen as if daring me to reply. Then I closed the email. 2 days later, a letter arrived, handwritten, from my father. I didn't know he even remembered how to write letters. It was short, almost tender. He apologized, said things had gone too far, said he missed me, couldn't sleep knowing how I viewed them now. He ended with one line that told me everything. I know we're not perfect, but family is about forgiveness, Grace. There it was, the refrain. Forgiveness, not accountability. As if betrayal was a rough patch. As if my role was to cover wounds while they kept holding the knife. I folded the letter and slid it into a drawer without answering. That night, I sat at my desk and made one move, not revenge, not a threat, just clarity. I emailed the bank's collections department. I attached the loan agreement, highlighting the signatures. Brother, father, my name absent. I explained that I was not a cosigner, that I was not financially tied to this loan in any way. I asked them to update their records. 2 hours later, the reply came. Thank you for your clarification. Your name has been removed from all internal references. That was it. With one email, the tether they thought they had wrapped around me snapped clean. No legal connection, no leverage, no backdoor to pull me through. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen until the words blurred. Relief didn't come as fireworks. It came as quiet. The next morning, my phone buzzed with another message from Mom. We realize now, it's time to heal. I didn't respond. That afternoon, Uncle Rob called. His voice was softer this time, less amused, more protective. They're unraveling, he said. Your mom's crying every hour. Your dad won't speak. Alex is pacing like a man waiting for a verdict. You didn't even do anything, Rowan, and they're terrified. I did something, I said quietly. I chose myself. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then Rob said, Good. About time. That night, I boxed the last of my things. Pans wrapped in dish towels. Photos slipped between sheets of cardboard. Papers filed into neat stacks. 3 piles on the floor. What was mine, what I'd return, what was going in the trash. Each box felt like closing a chapter, the cardboard sealing shut on years of weight I never realized I carried. As I taped the final box, I realized something. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted space. Clean, permanent, irreversible space. And now, for the first time, it was mine. The day I decided to cut them off for good didn't come with fireworks. No big fight, no slammed doors, no screaming matches. It happened on a Tuesday morning, ordinary as any other. I was sitting with a mug of coffee, staring out my window at a sky the color of wet cement, when it hit me. I hadn't thought about them once since waking up. No dread, no calculation of what bill might be waiting, no fear of what accusation might land in my inbox, just silence. I opened my phone, more missed calls, 3 from unknown numbers, 1 from my brother's burner account, 2 voicemails from Mom. I didn't listen to any of them. I just scrolled to settings, blocked every number, and felt the quiet settle into my chest like fresh air. Then, almost out of curiosity, I opened the family group chat. They'd added me back months ago, probably thinking it was symbolic, a way to pretend I still had a seat at the table I'd walked away from. I scrolled through months of messages, plans for dinners I was never invited to, gossip about relatives I barely remembered, and sprinkled in between, threads about me. Screenshots of old emails I'd sent when I helped Mom with a bill, captioned, She used to care. My brother joking. She thinks she's smarter than all of us just because she pays her bills on time. And then the most recent one, sent by Dad that very morning. Give her space. She'll come around. She always does. She's not cruel, just dramatic. That was it. The story they had written for me all these years, playing in real time. I didn't waste paragraphs explaining myself. I typed 4 words. No, I won't. Good luck. Then I hit leave group. And that was it. The silence after wasn't empty. It was clean. That afternoon, Uncle Rob called. I figured he might. You okay? He asked. More okay than I've been in years. He didn't try to change my mind. Didn't tell me I was being rash. He just exhaled softly and said, It's about time you chose yourself. Then he added something that stuck. They didn't just take you for granted, Rowan. They counted on you never figuring out you had a choice. And he was right. That was the heart of it. They'd built their world on the assumption that my guilt was stronger than my boundaries, that I'd always come back, patch things up, carry the weight, smile at holidays, write the checks. But I didn't. That night, I deleted every photo of them from my phone. Not to erase the past. I couldn't. But to stop giving space on my screen. in my life, to people who had only ever taken space in my peace. I went to bed early, my phone silent, my chest light. For the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. I felt free. 6 months passed, like a new life blooming in soil I hadn't realized was fertile. No texts, no knocks at the door, no fake emergencies designed to reel me back in. Just silence, the kind I once feared, but now protected fiercely. I filled it with better things. Long walks after work, no earbuds, just the sound of my own footsteps. Baking, not just obligatory birthday cakes, but pastries I wanted to eat. Books stacked by my bed that I actually had time to read. A passport renewal sitting on my desk, stamped and ready, waiting for the solo trip I'd been dreaming of. One afternoon, I ran into my brother at a grocery store parking lot. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the pavement. He looked thinner, maybe more tired. Or maybe he just looked like himself without the armor of arrogance. For half a second, he opened his mouth like he might say something. I didn't stop walking. No anger, no scene, just a calm, deliberate choice to keep moving. I didn't owe him a reaction. Uncle Rob still checked in sometimes. His calls were simple. You good? And he never asked questions he knew I wouldn't answer. Last time, he mentioned my parents were trying to talk, to reflect, to act different. It doesn't matter, I told him. That window is closed. And it was true. The apology I needed had never come when it mattered. They didn't step up when it counted. They stepped on me instead. And that version of me, the one who believed love meant debt, was gone. Now I was somewhere else entirely. Mentally, emotionally, and soon, physically. Because this peace I'd built, it wasn't free. It cost me everything I thought family was supposed to mean. And I would pay it again, without blinking. Because sometimes walking away isn't about escape. It's about finally arriving where you belong.